Hi, welcome to the podcast. This is our iCar monthly podcast. I'm Phil O'Brien, president of iCar, here with Megan Flewellen, and we're here to kind of go over kind of what's going on and, take you through a few things, legislative updates, classes, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
So welcome, Megan.
Welcome. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's dive right in. I know right off the bat what we're looking at today is kind of looking at legislative priorities. We are now officially in legislative session.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
No, absolutely. And that was kind of leads us up to the Capitol Hill visit that we just did.
Yep.
It was fantastic. We had a great turnout from our local association, and a lot of, obviously a lot of associations around the state all get together, show a great presence of all the realtors kind of meeting up with their representatives. And it makes a big impact. When the representatives can see how many people are there, the concerns we have, things we want to see addressed, they really do listen. And it makes a great impact, and it really forces change in the direction that helps, everybody, property owners, ourselves. And this was this year was a good turnout.
It was, despite even having some bad weather that day. There were so many realtors at the Capitol.
Absolutely.
Which is a really great show.
And then afterwards, we always host that kind of function to bring them in and kind of talk in a more informal setting. Mm-hmm. And we were a little concerned with the weather that we wouldn't get a good turnout, but a lot of people showed up and it was a great time. So
kind of the focus when we're going to the Capitol and we're meeting with these legislators, when we're touching base with them at that social party afterwards, the whole point is to talk about these are the bills that either the Iowa Realtors as a state entity is pushing for this session, or these are the bills that maybe other entities have submitted that we're kind of watching because they relate to real estate.
The recap. Let's go for the recap first.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
So let's kind of touch base before we dive into this year's session and this year's bills. Let's just quickly touch base on the bills that we paid attention to last year that we successfully passed.
Yeah. Last year, 2024, we did a couple of big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we were in the midst of the settlement and everything with NAR, and we've talked about that ad nauseum. I don't need to bring that up anymore. But the Real Estate Transparency Act, which was a proactive part of, it was proactive on our part because we wanted to get ahead of the curve. And that was involved, making sure that we had a mandatory buyer agreement, that it was state law, that we had to make sure that worked. We were promoting transparency in the industry and making sure that everyone, our clients knew what was going on. And we have before, but I think this was something that solidified this for all agents and made it best practice. And then it also allowed sellers to use sale proceeds and other sources of compensation or to compensate the buyer's agent. So beforehand, it wasn't allowed to have that in our purchase agreement. This allowed us to put that into our purchase agreement and make everything very clear, very transparent, and everyone's on the same page. So we're great situation there, and a lot of support from our legislators or representatives, and we get it done pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
We had to see them act. Sometimes people think that politics is a slow process, and a lot of times it is. But in this situation, we really had the support. We really pushed for it, and we got it done in record time. So I was really happy to see that. And then another big one was the Wholesaling Act. We were being proactive again, making sure that we're seeing people come in who are not, realtors. They might, be a completely different company, and they're trying to sell homes, buy and sell homes. So we made it imperative that anyone involved with this has to have a real estate license. And that was, it was a good touch. And again, full support from the representatives. We didn't see in either of these, we didn't see any pushback. It was full steam ahead on all accounts. So
yeah, we have very good history and very good relationship with our legislators by sponsoring these kind of bills that are easy to get behind year over year.
Yeah. Jen Kingland, our lobbyist is phenomenal. One of the best in the business, and she's such a great resource. If you don't know who she is, look her up. She's always working. She has great relationships with everybody there at the Hill, and they all know her by name, and they all respect her a great deal. When we had that little talk before we went to the Hill, we had the two representatives, and they had nothing but great things to say about her. It was a good conversation.
So let's kind of look at what are we looking at this year then for legislative priorities.
2025, the agenda was pretty simple. It was pretty straightforward. Nothing's ever simple, but it was very straightforward. We were really looking at holding our inspectors to a certain level, and home inspectors to a certain level. And just to preface this, any home inspector I've talked to, they were completely in support of this. They wanted to make sure that, well, we wanted to make sure that there was a registry, basically. It's not a license, but it is something where the home inspector has to register with the state, show that they're affiliated with like a national organization like ASHI, something along those lines. And this allows them to continue. We know that they're continuing to take educational courses and keep their self up to game, because if you're inspecting a house 10 years ago, there's going to be different situations than now, and you always have to keep yourself educated. So it was a great bill, and we got a lot of support from it as well. But we wanted to make sure that, inspectors do have some accountability. So we did have these things with the Home Inspection Accountability Act. Is there anything else that I'm missing here, Megan?
So that is the big one that Iowa Realtors has put forward as the bill for this year. But in addition to that, we like to monitor and pay attention to other bills that, again, others put forth that affect real estate. A couple big ones we're looking at this year. The first one is related to lead water service lines.
Yep.
So this may sound familiar to anyone. I know I've gotten several letters in the mail over the past few months. But essentially, the EPA has federally passed down a mandate that all lead service water lines will be replaced by 2037.
Sure.
And so what that means is right now, as a homeowner, if you have a lead service line underneath your home or going to your home, that is the responsibility of the homeowner.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing here across the state is letters going out saying, hey, you may have a lead service line, you may not. But if you do and it breaks, we're not allowed to repair a lead service line. It would have to be replaced. And if it's going to be replaced, that's usually a significant expense to the homeowner.
Exactly. No, you're tearing up the whole line from the house into the street, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into that.
Yeah. So the bill that is in session right now is more specifically looking at how to disclose the possibility of lead service lines in a property that is for sale. So that's just one that we're kind of keeping an eye on. We know that it's very topical with those lead service lines. Yeah,
it's a big push by the EPA. And again, to watching this and having something where you have to put something on a disclosure, it makes it tough, because a lot of homeowners, they're not going to know. And it's not necessarily easy to find out either. So putting that liability or onus on the seller can be a little tricky. We don't want to misrepresent anything, and we don't want our sellers to misrepresent anything. But didn't Iowa City, I got a couple of notices about insurance. Did you see those come in the mail? I did. Yeah. So it looks like, the city entities might have some opportunities for homeowners to opt into insurance programs. Because that's just it. You don't know if you have a lead service line unless you dig it up, unless it breaks, and then you are required to replace the whole system. And we often hear, $10,000, $12,000 for a repair like that. Well, when I got that notice, I was kind of intrigued. So I called my insurance person. Yeah. And I have a rider on it. So I would say if you're looking at that and check with your insurance company first. Yeah. So just a little tip. That's a great, I will also do that too. Yeah. There is another bill that we're kind of watching this year that I think ICAR members particularly might be interested to know about, because I know it is so relevant in a lot of our communities right now. But it is AARP has put forth a bill for the allowance of accessory dwelling units, ADUs, to be built statewide. ADUs are something that I feel like we talk about quite a bit. I know like the Affordable Housing Coalition has done a lot of work with letting each of our individual municipalities kind of update their planning and zoning regulations, their codes to maybe be more flexible and allow for ADUs. So we've kind of been seeing that movement little by little on a community by community level. But now we're having a bill introduced at the state level to allow that statewide. So something like a carriage house, something like an apartment above the garage, things along those lines, correct? Absolutely, yeah. And it's not, Iowa City recently updated their code, so they allow for a little more flexibility there. I know it's something that like North Liberty City Council has been discussing like current months. Coralville kind of keeps an eye out to see what other entities are doing. So it is something that a lot of local leaders are talking about. And so this is a bill that is, again, AARP, but we are supporting it. Iowa Habitat for Humanity, other entities like that also want to see this bill go forward. Absolutely. I mean, because it's, a lot of times cities have these restrictions, zoning restrictions, and to really protect against some like a lot of high density housing, but this isn't that. This
Mhm.
is this is hey if you want to add on an additional dwelling, great, go for it. You're not building an apartment complex in your backyard.
Yeah.
So
So these are the bills and the different legislative agendas that we're paying attention
mhm.
to this session. Where would be a good place for members to check out if they wanted to learn more, kind of follow us throughout this session?
Yeah, there's the IR legislative committee
Mhm.
that we meets weekly, and you can find that link on their website. But I recommend anybody sit in on that and just you can kind of see what's going on, stay up to date, anything coming up, and they're really interesting meetings. I was on the committee a year ago, and it was great to have some kind of back and forth and some talk about what we want to support, how we want to support it, things that we don't want to support. And I think that if you wanted to sit in on any of those, you can just by checking out that link at the IR website.
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect. And those are Mondays at 9:30. So
Mondays at
anyone
nine
can
thirty.
hop in and watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of
Okay.
what we've got legislatively. What do we got going on more locally?
Well, we've got a lot of education. Got great education coming up here.
Yeah.
We've got several classes. We've got the Mortgage Lending 101. You tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes. So our friends at RMN are going to be teaching two different classes on the same day. What day was that?
That's going to be February 20th, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Perfect. So that
Hmm.
first one is going to be Mortgage Lending 101. That's going to be all about the basics. Anything that you may have wanted to ask a lender, how does the process work? If you have maybe a non-traditional
Sure.
transaction, how could things go sideways or maybe some uncommon things you could see? But that's just like a great overview Lending 101 refresher.
Yeah, it's great to talk to the lenders. They're going to give you lots of little tips and tricks and hints, to make sure that the process rolls smoothly. And that's what you want for your client, right? You
Mhm.
want to make sure that you have some answers for them. And this is a great resource to get those answers.
Yep. And then same day that afternoon, they will be focusing more on VA loans. So that'll be a separate class, but you can sign up for both of them or just one or the other. But that'll, of course, be focused specifically on the uniqueness that comes
Yeah.
with a VA loan.
There's definitely some very specific things and requirements that they have. And so this will be a great way to educate yourself on that. So it's basically Mortgage 101 from
Mhm.
11 to noon and then small break 12:30 to 1 p.m. The VA loan.
Yes. And
Mm.
lunch in between if you're sticking around. So,
Okay, perfect. And the next one, this apparently sold out quick.
yeah.
That Chat GPT for realtors, um, taught by is it Adam?
Our very own Adam
That's right,
Pretorius.
Adam Pretorius. And those it's got two sessions, one on February 27th and one on March 5th. Is March 5th still available? There's some openings there.
As of the other day, there were very few, like
Okay.
less than 3 spots. So if you're watching this, definitely go online, see if it's available. If not, we will have a wait list open. And if there's that much demand, we might have to bring the class back in the fall. So
Yeah.
go look to see, but it is very limited spots.
Well, integrating, it's still new and people are still trying to find ways to integrate this into their business and like what they can do to help, with their clients. And I've used it several times and it is a pretty interesting technology and it streamlines a lot of things, but you got to learn it. You got to know what you're doing because I could see it going sideways if you don't. So, but yeah, that'd be great. That's going to be, again, already filling up. So act quick. Next on the list, we have the YPN Top Producers Panel, March 11th at Green State, the Financial Center.
Mhm.
I always love these panels. It's great to kind of see what the pros are doing and to have such great professionals up there and to be able to ask them questions. It's fantastic. You have anything to add on that?
Just that, yeah, it's not just you that loves this event. It's one of our top education events every single year, the Top Producers Panel. So it should hopefully once again be a very strong lineup. We like to have a few questions ready to go, but this is your time to ask those top producing agents your burning questions. So just come with notes.
Yeah, great panel. Laura Sorority, Terry Larson, Stacy Schrader, and Tim Conroy. They're going to be up there fielding all the questions. They're in the hot seat.
Yes.
So it'll be fun to watch. Moving on, we have focus on fair housing, and this is important too because we're really pushing that fair housing aspect. It's a mandatory 2 hours every 3 years
Mhm.
for your licensing. So it's great that locally we're offering this to make sure people can follow up with that. But that's April 16th. Can you tell me some details about this?
Yeah. So just like you said, it's going to count for the mandatory 2 hours of fair housing continuing education that's now required by the National Association of Realtors. So great time to just get that taken care of right off the bat. But even if you're not, focused on that requirement, it's going to be a very great class. We've got Nate Johnson, who is an instructor with NAR, coming in from St. Louis to teach the class. And yeah, it's we've got him for a couple different classes that day. So excited to have him in the area, but focus on fair housing will be our first opportunity providing you guys with that fair housing training.
That's good. And he's doing the smart growth and sustainability right after that, correct?
Yes. So same day, same instructor, completely different class. We're going to also be having at the corner of smart growth and sustainability.
Okay.
So much more focused on planning and zoning. How can you kind of get involved in your community? How can you influence those decision makers to allow for more smart growth
and sustainability?
And sustainability.
Wow. Who would have thought? No, these are great. It's education again. Is one thing that's very important to me. I always think, a lot of times when things go wrong, the first thing someone says is, "I didn't know." Like I didn't know that was a thing. It's like so getting the education out there, promoting the education, I think is fantastic. And what we're doing for our membership, this is just perfect. So thank you for putting all this stuff together.
Absolutely. And I will just say that both of those classes we're bringing in thanks to receiving multiple NAR grants. So just that it's not every day we get to bring in national speakers. And so this should be some really great education content thanks to NAR grants.
Yeah, that was great. We heard about that in our board meeting this morning. Great job getting the grants, bringing in. We went past our goal. So fantastic job. So great courses. Hope to see everybody there. And really that's all we have, for this podcast. We'll make it a little shorter than usual. But before we go, I just want to say our very own Anna Jenkins is moving on from iCar, doing great things. But, you see the podcast, you see all the stuff here. You don't see the people behind the scenes doing all the work. And Anna is a integral part of all of this. So we're sad to see her go. Anna, I hope the best for you. But yeah, sad to see you go. But thanks for everything. Really appreciate it. But yeah, these are the people that make things happen at iCar, all the staff. And it's, it's tough when we lose somebody, but, we wish they were best. Thanks, Anna. That's our show for today, our podcast. We talked about the legislative wins, our priorities, and all the upcoming education. Anything else to add before we go, Megan?
No, I think you've covered everything, and we are just kind of hitting the ground running this year. So excited to see where it goes.
As always, appreciate you tuning in to check out the podcast. We're now on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Just search iCar Update.
Yep.
And please subscribe. Put any comments below that you might want to see in future episodes, but just let us know what you want to see. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you tuning in. Take care.